Hi, this is Andrew Sears. Welcome to week 5, where we're going to talk about transformational leadership, transactional leadership, and other leadership theories. Just to put this week in context, we talked about how this course, we're trying to expose you to different lenses, right? And the first 4 weeks, we focused especially on the Christian lens and used the making of a leader. We also, as you're doing that, you're going through the leadership experience, which is a textbook going through academic leadership theories. So in weeks 2 and 4, you had major projects on these. This week is your major project for the leadership experience. So what we're looking for you to do this week is to synthesize, and we're going to transition after this week into leadership perspectives across race, ethnicity, class, and gender. And that's where we're going to go do a deeper dive on this book that you went through and other supplemental material. So just to frame transformational and transactional leadership. So we explained that, all the courses you take and all the roles that you might play, you have, ministry skills that, might be pastors and ministerial staff, program staff, human resources, business skills, grant writing, marketing, managerial accounting, policy development, board governance, innovation competencies. So transformational is going to be more at this top half, right? Now, that's not going to be, a lot of people just jump to the finish line and they say, well, everyone just needs to be transformational, and who doesn't want to be transformational, right? But I think recognizing that, you need to be, doing these transformational leadership skills, but you also need to be able to have some of the transactional leadership skills to enable that. So, and I'll explain to you how those fit together. Now, as I go into that, I'm also going to talk about some other concepts that the book has covered, and I just want to tie them together. So, often there is, in one of the concepts that's covered in these chapters is communication and the importance of communication. So more and more workers are starting to work remotely, and more organizations will have remote workers. So I want to talk about this concept that they talked about. It's this 2x2 grid called the Blake Moten Managerial Grid that you covered several chapters before. But the idea is you want to balance concern for results, have a high concern for people and a high concern for results, and you want to be in the team management. Now, the implication of that is, you also need to be aware of this. Stephen Covey, he talked about the emotional bank account. So, making deposits and withdrawals in an emotional bank account. Now, if you have employees that are working remotely, the emotional deposits are going to happen much more slowly in a remote work environment. And what happens is your remote workers, or if you're a remote work organization, it can drive your organization here unless you're intentional about that. Now, I also want to talk about one of the exhibits from the book. And because we're very tech savvy and we run a organization where we're interacting with people a lot electronically, this is one of I've seen more relationships blow up over people not understanding this than just about anything. It drives me crazy. I have a rule that I almost follow this like if it were written in the 10 Commandments. If I have to do conflict with someone, the more intense something I need to do with someone, I'm never going to do that by electronic form, like by text or by email. I'm never going to do conflict. And sometimes I accidentally, will do conflict, not even realizing it in an email. And I am just like, oh man, I messed up on that. So what I recommend is, so you have, what he calls high channel richness, low channel richness, right? So face to face, and then video would be, right here. Telephone is better than email, but there's times I'm talking with someone and I need to be able to read. Are they angry? Are they sad? Are they just taking what I'm saying? And, so recognize the pros and cons of these things. If you're doing conflict, always be on the right side over here. Don't do conflict by Facebook. Don't do conflict by, it's just not a good idea. It doesn't, generally have good results. So now there are good things. So email, anything you need to have documented. It says provide records. You can reflect on it more. And, introverts fall into this trap. They're like, I don't want to have a live conflict with so-and-so. I'm going to write a 3-page email. And then it ends up being 10 times worse. So anyway, if you need something documented, use email. If it needs to be quick, if you need to introvert on it, then that's fine. So that's one of the principles. So I'm in this week, I'm going to be kind of covering a smorgasbord of principles. I'm going to go a little bit more into transformational leadership. So the idea behind transformational leadership is that it is you're trying to be visionary. You're trying to transform people. You're not just trying to manipulate them to get things done. You're trying to transform them, help them transform others. You're trying to get them farther on the spectrum towards self-actualization. Now, part of the challenge is if you're serving in at-risk communities, this can be a challenge because you might have a lot of recent graduates from your program that they're on the safety needs level. And if you don't recognize that and you're all about self-actualization for them, then that's not going to be helpful, right? So, as much as I appreciate transformational leadership, I feel like it often works best in a upper middle class context. Now, having said that, the model that I like to look at also is this full range model of leadership. And it talks about the laissez-faire leader. So that's basically the leader that is, it might be a pastor that just preaches and doesn't do anything else, right? So avoids involvement. And then the management by exception might be the pastor who just doesn't get involved unless something's exploding, right? And then the contingency reward is where you're going to reward achievements. So that might be, if you are you have people on, sales, or you have big bonus systems or things along those lines. And transactional leadership, one of the big trends a while ago was something called management by objective. And the idea is you're going to just give people concrete objectives. You're going to have really strong key performance indicators, and you're going to hold everyone accountable, all of those. Now, I actually think that is one of the highest levels of leadership, management by objective. Having said that, it often does get categorized as transactional leadership. So I actually think that these kind of build on each other. So, you need to have accountability in an organization. You can't just say, often what I feel like happens in ministry is the person says, I'm doing transformational leadership, whenever what they're really doing is they're a big picture person, they're visionary, and they're doing laissez-faire. They like to give the talk and then leave everyone else to deal with the details. But they aren't providing clear direction. They aren't, there's no accountability. And having some accountability, but accountability isn't the bottom line. If accountability is the bottom line in the organization, then you are more a transactional leader, right? So what you want to do is you want to motivate people. You want to, be like Steve Jobs. You want to be like Mother Teresa. You want to be like Nelson Mandela. All of those people, they did this, they inspired people. They weren't working for, people didn't work for Mother Teresa because she set objectives for them and they felt like they weren't going to get a pay raise, for those things, right? Even same thing with, Steve Jobs or other people. So, one of the assignments we're going to have you do this week is you're going to go through a survey that's going to look at, how much are you focused on transformational and transactional. And it's not meant to be judgmental, because even if you're more transactional, what you want to do is, if you're an accountant and you're working with others, you still want to inspire them. Accounting is super transactional, right? You just have to account for things, right? But you still want to be able to inspire people. So even if your role is more transactional, you can inspire people. So the full range model, what you're trying to do is you're trying to idealize influence. So you're going to have vision. You're going to walk the walk. You're going to be a good role model. You're going to show a lot of commitment and persistence in pursuing objectives. Have a good vision, express confidence in that, provide and symbolize the goals and mission of the organization. And what you're doing is you're saying, I believe that this is truly the right thing to do, right? Inspirational motivation is you're inspiring others to perform. You're clarifying where the organization will be in the future. You're creating a strong sense of purpose with the employees, aligning individual and organizational needs. And you're saying, we can achieve what we need to achieve so that, people are motivated. It's, if you're a coach for a team, it's you can win. You don't want to go in there thinking, we're definitely going to lose, right? So intellectual and stimulation. You encourage the imagination of employees, challenge old ways of doing things, look for better ways of doing things, encourage followers not to think like him or, whatever the leader is, and willing to take risk. And, you're sending the message, if we change our assumptions, then that could be good. And individualized consideration, you're trying to think about individual needs. You're, connecting with employees. You're caring for people, and you're encouraging continuous development and growth of employees. And you say, I care about you and I'm looking for your best interests. So all of this was just a quick overview I wanted to cover for this week. Now, the real purpose of this week comes in the week 5 project. So I want to focus on that. So that is a new supervisor leader toolkit. And let me I'm going to jump to the next slide. So what we've tried to do in this course is, stage 1 as a leader, you're the same tool for everything. If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. That's called the law of the instrument. So, you may be you may say, this is my style of leadership and this is just how it is. But the reality is often you need different styles for different contexts. So what we're trying to do in this course is we're trying to give you an extensive toolkit, right? And ultimately, we want you not just to have the tools. Ultimately, we want you to have the wisdom of the tools, like this story of the old engineer that I told in the first week, where the guy comes and he gets paid $1,000, and all he does is he hits the hammer into the machine, and he says, "I'm charging you $1 for the 1 minute to hit the hammer," and it costs $999 to know that you needed to use a hammer there, and where you needed to hit. So ultimately, that's what we're trying to do. So we want you to help equip your leaders in your organization with a toolkit, right? So the idea is this is going to be a synthesis project in your week 5. And what you're going to do is, this is a new supervisor leadership toolkit. So what we want you to do is synthesize what you've learned. It's a 2,500 word leadership handbook that you can use to help train new supervisors. You can feel free to use some diagrams if you want. That's not going to count towards your word count, but often that can be helpful for a lot of these theories. And really, this is the synthesis project for the leadership experience book. You can use any other material in the course. And the idea is that this earlier ministry philosophy was focused more on values and philosophy. This is going to be focused more on applying theories. So, the ministry philosophy might be a little more heart-oriented. This is going to be a little more head-oriented. It doesn't have to be purely head-oriented. It's but it might be a little more tool-oriented, right? So I want you to do 3 things. One is, have an introduction that's going to get the attention of your audience and share how it's going to help address their needs. So, if this is a new manager, you got to convince them this is going to be worth reading, right? Most of this, I want you to focus on summarize and provide practical application steps of the most important leadership theories and styles that fit your organization and philosophy of leadership. So this should not attempt to summarize all the material covered, because that would take a whole book, right? And you just give them the textbook, but instead should pick those that fit. And you can use diagrams provided in this course. We talked a lot about servant leadership, transformational leadership. There's a lot of leadership theories that often get used a lot in Christian organizations because they're strongly values aligned. and then have a conclusion. And if you want to use any of the third-party materials in your course, in this course, you could use that, or other sources in the appendix. So, and if you want, you could use diagrams from this presentation. So your paper should follow APA format. And if you have any questions, just ask the instructor for your course. So thanks a lot.